Gambia's president is likely to declare another state of public emergency as he addresses the nations in a few hours. Benin goes ahead with local elections despite the threat of the COVID-19 pandemic. Zimbabwe's lockdown has affected the informal sector, causing economic pressure on citizens. This and more coming on The World Today. Hello, this is iAfrica TV. You are watching the World Today News Bulletin. I am Amadou Kante. Many thanks for joining us, and now the news in detail. President Adama Barrow is due to address the nation this evening, few hours after the National Assembly ended the second extraordinary session meant to address challenges around the coronavirus global pandemic. Lawmakers in Banjul voted against the extension of the state of public emergency on Saturday, despite earlier recommendations by a smaller committee for additional 21 days. The president is powered by the 1997 Constitution to declare a state of public emergency that would last for 21 days, but it is not confirmed if today's address will go in that direction. Africa will broadcast the statement from the president by 8 p.m. So stay tuned as you stay safe of the COVID-19. The National Assembly in Banjul has approved the appointment of a new ombudsman after 1 month of intense consultations around qualifications required for the office of the ombudsman. The nomination of Bakari Sanyang was rejected on condition that he was still serving as governor of the West Coast region. Speaker of the House, Mariam Jack Denton, recalled when the matter was referred to the Public Appointment Standing Committee.
That the motion for the confirmation of the appointment of Mr. Bakari Sanyang as Ombudsman was tabled by Her Excellency the Vice President on Monday, the 6th of April, 2020. This second nomination was made by His Excellency the President after the rejection of the earlier nominee in December 2019 by the National Assembly.
The Vice President of the Republic of the Gambia, Dr. Aissatou Toure, admitted to having erred, leading to the consultations with the National Assembly for the final move.
I wish to, on behalf of His Excellency President Barrow, to express appreciation for making this great decision today to endorse the appointment of Mr. Bakari Sanyang to the office of Ombudsman. I want to say thank you for the fact that everything that was done here was to ensure that we move procedures, make sure that procedures are followed. Of course, to err is human, and whatever shortcomings that might have resulted in us reaching up to this stage is not intended. But as we move and as we are evolving as a new democracy in which we want to follow procedures, we must be patient. We must be ready to engage constructively. And it was a very constructive engagement.
Vice President Day assuring government's readiness to work with the compliance with democratic principle in good faith. Now, from that development there, next we head to Benin because electorates in Benin went to the polls to elect local representatives as the Electoral Commission conduct local elections despite threat of the COVID-19 pandemic. But the Electoral Commission provide hand sanitizers and masks for voters as protective measures to control the spread of the virus. Voter turnout is lower than expected, with 5 political parties contesting for over 1,000 municipalities across the country. Here is more details of that in this report.
This is the Abomoye Kalavi polling station in Benin's capital, Cotonou. Despite the threat posed by the coronavirus in the West African nation, voters have come out to cast their ballots, as they seek to exercise their choice in local leaders. To them, COVID-19 is just but one of many problems that they want to be addressed.
Qu'est-ce qu'on peut attendre des futurs élus?
I live in Cotonou. Our commune needs a mayor who can fulfill the desires of citizens. We dream of building infrastructure such as markets, roads and many others, so that Cotonou becomes a major player in the sub-region.
What we can expect from our elected representatives is development of Cotonou, our capital. I would still like the problems we have, especially flooding, social problems and development problems, to be a top priority of the elected representatives.
In an effort to minimize the spread of the virus, the Electoral Commission and other partners have put hand sanitizers as strategic points. Voters are also wearing face masks.
I would like to thank the Autonomous National Election Commission, SENA, not to say the government, which did everything possible to ensure that the vote was held without contamination by the coronavirus. The vote this Sunday, May 17th, will not be an open door to the spread of COVID-19.
Up to 5.4 million registered voters cast their ballot. The voter turnout is still considered a little lower than expected. 5 political parties are battling it out as they seek to control over 1,800 municipalities across the country. As the vote counting gets underway, the West African nation awaits the outcome.
And from the report there in Benin, we come back home because security authorities acting in enforcement of the public health emergency measures rounded up youth in Banjul for allegedly defying social distancing. This just ended emergency measures prohibit the use of football grounds with a view to control the spread of the virus. Here is more details of that.
Police Intervention Unit and General Duty officers have secured the arrest of 52 young people from Banjul for allegedly defying orders to avoid crowd on football grounds. The power to hold such gatherings subject to legal measures came as a result of the just ended state of public emergency as part of measures to suppress the spread of the coronavirus.
A team from Carnifing, comprised of Police Intervention Unit officers, the General Duty and other security services, raided people in Banjul and arrested 52 people after receiving intelligence that some youth in Banjul usually play night football games.
On the recommendations of the Ministry of Health, several checkpoints have been mounted along the tourism development areas with a view to enforce social distancing as a matter of public health regulation. In another development, the Mansa-Konko Regional Task Force in the Lower River region has border crossing matters on its table.
Mansa-Konko also, the Regional Task Force, intercepted 2 motorists who were riding with unregistered motorcycles. They are believed to be Senegalese and they both absconded, leaving their motorcycles behind.
The Health Ministry announced on Monday that the Gambia government will enforce the deportation of non-Gambians found guilty of illegal entry to the country to prevent a further importation of the coronavirus. As of this week, Gambia has confirmed 24 positive cases of the virus since March, 10 of whom are currently receiving treatment. Currently, 69 people are undergoing quarantine. Neighboring Senegal had recorded more than 2,000 cases of the virus, despite which the country has eased restrictions for the pandemic. Reporting for iAfrica News, I am Absagay.
Security officers enforcing COVID-19 regulations in the Gambia. Well, there's more news coming ahead, but for now we'll take a break and come back shortly with the remaining update stories. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. You are watching the World Today News Bulletin on Africa TV, and now to the rest of the stories. The Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs has dispelled reports that National Assembly sessions were cancelled on Monday because Minister of Finance did not turn up for the tabling of the revised budget. We wish to clarify that such reports were entirely false. The cancellation of the tabling of the revised budget took place at the direction of the National Assembly, the ministry said in a media dispatch. The statement noted that Minister Mamburin Njai has always accorded the highest degree of respect to the National Assembly. And from that, next to Zimbabwe, because Zimbabwe's informal business sector is still shut down as part of measures to curb the spread of the disease in the country, causing economic pressure on citizens. Some business activities are gradually returning to operations to ease the economic challenges amidst the impact of the COVID-19. The government may consider easing some of the regulations if the coronavirus cases is not increasing. Here's more details of that in this report.
Though more sectors of the economy have been progressively reopened, the informal sector, which accounts for the majority of economic activity here, remains shut down. Those who rely on it for a living are getting desperate.
I do not know what to do anymore because I have 4 children and I have nothing to feed them. Today all I fed my baby is porridge which I cooked using a mealie meal I got from my neighbor.
It's been hours since that meal, and she thinks her baby is crying again because of hunger. A commuter taxi driver who's been grounded during the lockdown tells me he's going to sell his mobile phone so he can buy food for his family.
I have been going around to friends asking for help, anything, even a plate of meal or some vegetables, because I have nothing left.
The situation for many people here has been made worse by soaring inflation that has quickened the depletion of what little cash reserves they had. Kilian Chijande is on a list of vulnerable people who are receiving cash transfers from the government. Kilian says he's received the equivalent of $16, which he says is not enough.
I received $415, but I only managed to buy a packet of macaroni. I have about $100 left, and that will only buy a bag of subsidized mealie meal.
With the lockdown extended indefinitely, there are fears some may not recover.
Those in business have spent their profits and their capital, so they won't be able to reopen when this is over.
President Emmerson Mnangagwa has said the coronavirus restrictions will be reviewed every fortnight and additional measures may be introduced if the number of cases increases. So far, Zimbabwe has a low number of infections compared to other African countries, a statistic many hope is maintained so they can be allowed to return to work and provide for their families.
From that report there in Zimbabwe, we come back home because moments after the National Assembly voted against the extension of the just ended state of public emergency for 45 days, the member for Brikamanov told iAfrica some of the loopholes that the National Assembly needed to be filed by Cabinet. The motion tabled by the Minister of Justice failed to proceed by 17 votes after representatives believed that the initial period of emergency was not enforced and the National Assembly wasn't served with concrete information on the progress around it. For Laji Dabo, the timing of market vendors, closure of places of worships are among what he said are unjustifiable.
My position is very clear. In my deliberation, when I was taking part in the debate, I indicated that I will be in for the extension, provided that we will review the regulations and do the necessary proposal for amendments on paper. And the ministers should give us the assurance that they will put into consideration those proposals for amendment. Key among those ones is the issue surrounding the markets. And the second one is the closure of the mosques. And the third one, the transport system.
Alaji Stabo, National Assembly member for Brikama North, speaking there. Finally, to Egypt, because the impact of the coronavirus pandemic has affected diaspora remittances in Egypt, with 20% drop expected between March and June. Last year, the North African countries recorded its highest remittances inflows of about $26.8 billion. But that trend has changed thanks to the COVID-19. The drop in remittances could put many Egyptians under financial pressure. Here is more details of that in this report.
2019 saw remittances inflows reach $26.8 billion, a record high in Egypt's history. Earlier this year, January and February maintained this momentum and recorded about 37% increase in revenues during that period compared to 2019. 2020 was promising a new remittances record, but not anymore, thanks to the coronavirus pandemic.
Remittances from March to June are expected to drop by up to 20%. Their flow will not stabilize before September. The main reason is that some Egyptians have been laid off, especially those from the Gulf countries. There are those who are still abroad, but because of the pandemic are now in between jobs, and finally there are those whose salaries have been cut.
The World Bank estimates a 19.7% global drop in remittances this year. Gulf countries are the biggest contributors to Egypt's remittances revenues. So combining the impact of COVID-19 with the drop in oil prices, Egypt could be on the higher end of that estimate.
I think the expected drop in remittances is one of the reasons that has pushed the government towards IMF loans. It's a precautionary move taken to cushion the economy, especially now that there are no precise projections to when this pandemic's impact will be over.
Remittances in 2019 brought 5 times more foreign exchange to the North African country than the Suez Canal, and also more than twice the revenues from tourism. It's almost as high as Egypt's entire exports, which reached $28 billion last year. It represents 9 to 10% of the gross domestic product.
The drop in remittances this year could put millions of Egyptians under financial pressure. So far, the pandemic has consumed about $9 billion of Egypt's foreign reserves, so the government might not have much to do to help them out.
That report there in Egypt finally brings this news bulletin to an end. But for more details of this and other stories, you can also look on our website on africa.tv. Many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and bye for now.
Badingol men be Gambia anin Gambia e bantala mbe nga nyillon ko TRRC bala doko sallabang le kono andila doko be lori men kan wala hadama dingol men na nyanto tinyata nyimbanko kanjang kabrin July karo 1994 sangola kana January karo 2017 sangola woto momo yalon ko e mantorata nyi wato kono andi man futa TRRC follow pour que la kuma kan di safo me statement no ye fere ke ye futa TRRC ye la kuma kan di ataria nyama yo pour kana TRRC ye fen kenam pasoti kana futa je wala fen dépense pour ka futa TRRC ke la kuma kan di abe sendi le male barembe nyim fanan ko en la ko pour ka statement o fanan di amanke ko momo ye la kuma kan di TRRC ibelo la television o nyatole mobe jube wotude tele bulu ni laptop ka testify mobe ye la moy mobe je iso kenole bar ni man la fo fanan na ise kuma kango dinole ayatra molke kango moy barete nyaada jela nindu man fo fanana ise sino inin commissional damma aliye kacha ayatra mote bole kalama andu nimme lafta kanyinke ise katoke yenin telephone number kumandi pour ka TRRC sotono 7704988 7704988 wala 7415937 7415937 ala baraka mobe sadake TRRC dokot.
My name is Saul Fraser. I was born on the 19th of January.